So ripping packs, I love it, you love it, I mean, we all love it, right? Though does it cross over into a gambling addiction? Now, this is a topic that can bring upon a lot of heated debate, as it's a discussion that generally brings upon a lot of different and unique viewpoints, right? Though in this video, I am not taking some sort of virtue signaling standpoint where I'm gonna tell you that I'm against ripping packs, right? I mean, I rip packs on my channel, and there's a bunch of videos that you can check out where I actually do this. So I'm most certainly not coming from that direction or standpoint about that in this video. Though this is more going into the psychology of ripping packs and whether or not it has similarities to gambling, and along if it makes sense statistically to try and hit chase cards, and the reason why it can actually become quite dangerous. Now, I'm also going to be covering my own opinions on this topic as we progress further into the video. Now, there's an obvious chicken or egg kind of question that comes up, and that is ripping packs the problem, or is your lack of self-control the problem? And I think this is where the discussion gets interesting, because there are two sides of the argument that can take place here, right? So on one side of the argument, we can say that most things in life in moderation are not bad for you. The problem really comes in when self-control leaves the room. And this is true with most things in life, right? You know, poor eating habits, general lifestyle choices, spending habits, personal hygiene. These are all things we control, though this is where it gets a little bit tricky. You see, in life, we can obviously say that we have complete control in everything we do, which is true to a certain extent. Though what this simplistic view lacks is the fact that our life experiences shape our decisions, and these things are sometimes not that easily visible to us. And if we are not self-reflecting and not asking ourselves the hard questions, we may never get to the bottom of these answers. To explain what I mean, I think it's just best that I share my own story. So from my own perspective, I have an incredible struggle with my diet choices, right? And this stems from childhood experiences. So like my partner Chanel knows about this, right? And she's super aware of it and she helps me through this issue. Though I have a tendency to order and eat takeout when I'm under incredible amounts of stress and pressure, and I find comfort in this. Now, this is because I grew up in an Eastern European family and food was always like a sense of bonding for us, right? It was a sense of comfort. So for some context, my parents migrated to Australia, and obviously that was a very challenging time for them as they had to learn a completely new language, learn a new culture, you know, the whole lot, right? Though no matter how difficult life was, we all bonded over food on the table. So because of this, in my adulthood, I still feel a sense of comfort and care when eating that's very reminiscent of my childhood. So as I've become an adult, it's almost become a way of me coping with difficult situations. So if there's work pressure or maybe some life stresses that come up, I resort to buying takeout and eating food. Now, this issue I deal with is something that I'm very aware of, right? Though it's not that easy for me to kick this habit, even though I am fully aware of the implications of it. It's actually something that I still struggle with right now, because even when I'm under immense amount of pressure from whether, you know, that's work or just other issues, I have an impulse that goes straight to food. Though over the years, I've gotten more of a hold of this, and now I don't act on that impulse. Though the impulse is always still there, as it's a high level of comfort from me that I've kind of, you know, developed since I was a child. So this is a battle that will be constant with me, and it's not something that's so easily mind over matter, as it's a consistent battle as a childhood coping mechanism that I've developed. So even with all that awareness, when something comforts us from difficult times that we use maybe as kids, these habits can be very challenging to kick in adulthood. So that's my experience with food, right? But what about Pokemon cards? Now, before I get into that, I just want to say, if you're new here, please feel free to subscribe to the channel's content. I focus a lot on covering topics of Pokemon collecting and general self-improvement, so feel free to click subscribe and join the journey. Now, when looking at Pokemon cards, there's a few things to look over, right? So Pokemon cards also have a tremendous sense of comfort for a lot of us. Pokemon provided a lot of value for us as kids. Most people who collect Pokemon in their adult years also collected as kids. I mean, this wouldn't be the case for everyone, right? And I'm sure there's some people watching who never collected as kids, though I think I can pretty confidently say that a lot of people who collect today also have memories of collecting as kids. Now, here's the core of this issue. If collecting cards as kids created amazing memories for you, well, it's straightforward to tie that feeling and want to chase it into adulthood. I know for me, when I was growing up, some of my best memories of my childhood were ripping packs and hitting the rare cards. I mean, back then it wasn't really about value, it was more about the rarity of the card, right? Though that feeling that's associated with ripping packs as a kid and having those beautiful childhood memories of like a bewilderment, and it's still one of the best memories that I carry today. Though as an adult, this is where it can get tricky, and here's why. Now, ripping packs is incredibly enjoyable. There is absolutely no denying that. It's exciting, it's passionate, it has highs and lows. In fact, it's so fun that people will happily spend hours watching others rip packs just because of how fun it is. Though now the cards also have value associated with them, and this is where it can become super problematic if you are chasing cards and just trying to rip open packs. Firstly, modern cards have incredibly difficult pull rates. For context, to pull any VMAX Alt Art from the Sword and Shield era is around a 1 in 272 packs. These kind of odds are crazy difficult. So almost in every circumstance, you'd be better off buying the singles you want rather than trying to pull them yourself. I mean, there are stories of people spending $10,000 or more of people trying to pull the Umbreon VMAX themselves, when in reality, you could have bought maybe 10 or 11 Umbreons with that kind of money. So this is when you need to ask yourself a few questions. Are you collecting cards, or are you trying to pull the chase card yourself? What is the purpose of you ripping packs? This question is your golden ticket to discovering why you are motivated to rip packs. Is it for fun, or is there other intentions? If you are trying to collect cards, right, and you buy a booster box or maybe 2 booster boxes and try to collect the master set and it's an enjoyable experience, then well done, because you've got this under control. Though if you want to pull the chase card yourself, and if buying it outright wouldn't fulfill you in the same way, then that's when it becomes problematic, and this is where journaling and self-reflection can be very compelling tools in order to see what it is you actually desire out of ripping packs. Because when we take a look at the stats and take a very logical approach, buying the chase card is always the best decision over ripping the packs. And it's something that every collector needs to be incredibly aware of. I just mentioned it before, right? Though one big thing I encourage is journaling. So Jim Quick, the brain research expert who wrote the book Limitless, speaks on the profound power of journaling and what it does for the brain along with your mindset. And I encourage anyone who is into personal development to read this incredible book. You see, journaling almost works as a mirror into who we are. We receive feedback in a way by getting our thoughts out on paper. We can write down our experiences, and somehow we come to like a level of awareness of why we behave the way we do, why we act the way we do, why we live the way we do, and why we want what we want out of life. Like, man, I journal a lot, nearly every day, and I'm always asking myself very difficult questions. Why am I making YouTube content? How am I improving as a person because of my content? What way am I contributing to the world because of my content? You know, what skills do I need to refine and learn to make better videos? These questions are pretty hard questions that I ask myself in order to come to an answer. One thing I have found from journaling is that I greatly desire challenge and improvement. I mean, I love it, right? So I actually have a goal that I've set myself, that I always make my video 2% better than the last video. And I'll do one more revision. Maybe I'll experiment with a different editing technique, and I try new forms of content. So when I rip packs on my channel, I want to give you a little bit of an oversight of how I go through it, because I think transparency is incredibly important, and everyone who watches my content deserves to know my mindset and how I approach my content. Also, as a marketing professional, I want to take you through how I think of box breaks and that kind of content. Firstly, when I rip open a box, there's a few reasons why I do it on my channel, and here's why. Number one, I love doing giveaways, and when I rip packs, it always feels like a sense of enjoyment, and I feel like I can do some good in the world. Number two, my channel covers a wide array of topics, and I am very aware that I go into the psychology of collecting and other life experiences. Now, what I really don't want is to have a channel that's always down in the dumps or just talking about very serious topics. It's easy to stay in that place, so I want to ensure that there's two levels of content, both high energy content and real content that, you know, talks about real life experiences. And number three, box breaks and pack rips require an incredibly high level of skill, and it's the most competitive content on YouTube for the Pokemon TCG space. Because of this, I really like to challenge myself to see if I can create a niche within this field. Nearly everyone tries to break into this space, though with such dominant and prominent figures who are like almost celebrities in this space, it's very challenging to make some noise when there's so many people doing it so well. So I've really thought deeply about how I can make my pack opening videos incredibly different to what's out there. I've done a lot of work on cultivating a champion's mindset and a winner's mindset. My content does have the quality to compete with the highest level of YouTube, and I'm in complete control of growing this channel and making it iconic in its own way. Though through so much reading about mindset and reading books, you know, on the greats like Novak Djokovic, the greatest tennis champion, or Tyson Fury's book on mindset, and Michael Jordan, you know, they all share one specific skill set, and that is they believe in themselves. And that's something that I really hope that others can take away from consuming my content. You need to believe in yourself, man. It's so essential because let me tell you something. I've lived life doubting myself and I've lived life believing in myself. And 10 times out of 10, believing in yourself is always the better option. And I won't be able to get there or create this high level content if I don't back myself in and fully believe in the artistry that I'm creating. Self-belief is everything, and this belief is what will drive positive behaviors in my life. Every time I make a video, I ask myself, how can I make this better? I reflect, I journal, and then I act smarter on the next one. This gives me a huge sense of accomplishment, which further motivates me to create the next video to be better than the last. And I really would like to encourage everyone to do this in life, in your job, as a parent, just as a human being in general, because life is truly what you make it out to be, though you do need to cultivate the mindset of a champion. And a great book about this is called Serve to Win by Novak Djokovic. You really get into the depths of how a champion has to think and how much self-belief you need to have in order to succeed. Though in saying that, my pack ripping videos serve a specific purpose. I actually don't rip packs off camera, as my box break videos have different intentions. I also have a very investment-like mindset when it comes to Pokemon for my personal collection. When I film a box break video, they are to fulfill other areas in my life, which I love. Number one is giving to others, and number two is challenging myself and becoming 2% better every day. So this becomes a win-win, because when I gift something to someone, like whether it's a card or a booster box, I receive amazing messages from them, and then I can make someone's day. And then this makes me feel like my content on YouTube is positively improving someone's life. And then also, if the video performs well in such a competitive niche, I get an incredible amount of satisfaction that I was able to make some noise in one of the most incredibly competitive terrains of YouTube. Now, with all this talk about the mindset of ripping packs, you're probably curious about those box break videos. Well, yes, a lot of thought is involved in them, and they take over 25 hours to create. You can also watch all my pack opening videos in this playlist, which I've linked for you right here. Within this playlist, you can see my highly detailed box break videos. These videos are the ones in my content library where I genuinely challenge myself and I focus on breaking through the noise. Click that playlist if those videos interest you, and feel free to drop some feedback there, as feedback is the breakfast of champions. I'll see you there.